In this video, we're going to be breaking down Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the #1 best-selling ever personal finance book, and the teachings of Robert Kiyosaki. We're going to talk about the #1 lesson. So if you've wondered, what do rich people do that poor people don't? Now, when I came across this lesson, I went from making $40,000 a year to over $1 million doing this one thing. So this is going to change your life forever. And as our economy is clearly drastically shifting right now, this is very important to know. So this is Jake Ducey with I Love Prosperity. Now let's break down what the rich people do that the poor people don't even know that's going on, and the #1 teaching from Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Robert Kiyosaki. So when I came across the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book and the things that Robert Kiyosaki teaches, the very first thing that kind of caught my eye, almost like it was a typo, was the rich don't work for money. I didn't understand it at the time, and I was making about $40,000 a year, and I was able to apply these things that we're going to be talking about here in this video, and it allowed me to very quickly, actually, by the time I was 28, have a multi-million-dollar business. So we're going to be talking about specifically why the rich don't work for money, first of all, and second of all, how you can implement this in your own life, and I'm going to share my own personal experiences to do so. So before we get into how to apply and why it's significant that the rich don't work for money and how it makes them actually the richest people, let's talk about the reasons that this is so important. And the first one is taxes. The way our tax system is set up is if you work directly for money, meaning you get paid per hour or on a salary basis for what you do, you're taxed at the highest tax rate. Now, since the actual way the government has set this up is that if you are working for money directly, you actually don't even get the benefits of keeping your money and using tax write-offs legally and paying less in taxes at the end of the year. And that's because the current Tax Payment Act of 1943 legalized it for the federal government to take your money before you even get it. Now, as a business owner myself, they can't do that to me. At the end of the year, I can go through all of my situations and all my legal write-offs. I can do all of these things and lower my tax burden. Very, very, very wealthy people such as Robert Kiyosaki are paying nothing in taxes because before the end of the year, they're rebuying more real estate. They're reinvesting in massive scales to their business. So they're making millions of dollars and paying nothing taxes. But the federal government wanted to fund the war in the 1940s. So in 1943, they made it mandatory to withhold your money, to take it from you before you even get it. Why? Because the federal government has no money of its own. So they take your money and my money through taxes to fund all of their initiatives. In most instances, it's war. Currently, it becomes a lot more around social funding, social security, funding for everybody, social programs. But they've set it up where you are in the employee quadrant. There's 4 quadrants that Robert Kiyosaki talks about. He calls it the Cashflow Quadrant. And the highest tax rate is actually the employee. So you could make a very low amount of money, but be in the highest percentage of taxes. Now, there's no way around this if you stay in that quadrant and work directly for money. Actually, in 1913 is when they first started doing the income tax, but then it was repealed in 1916. In 1943, they said, look, we need money for funding our wars. So if you are an employee, if you are a salaried worker, we're going to steal your money before you get it because we don't trust that you're going to give it to us. Now, this is the #1 reason that the rich don't work for money, because guess what? The highest expense you ever have in your life is going to be taxes, especially if you stay in the highest percentage of tax rates, which has nothing to do with how much money you make. The percentage of which you pay the most money deals with how you earn your money. And when you work directly for it, you always pay the highest tax rate. So why do rich people not work for money when it comes to taxes? Well, that's because the tax system is really an incentivization system to get you to do the work the government wants. In a communist or socialist state, the government is responsible for all social works. And in the most advanced forms, they even give people money. But they fund all the apartment buildings. They do all that work. In a capitalist society, the government tries to incentivize capitalists to do the government's bidding, such as investing in housing, such as employing other people, and getting to a very large number where you're employing hundreds or thousands of people. You're going to pay less in taxes because there's tons of incentives if you are helping actually employ people and provide housing, etc., etc., etc. Not to mention, when you move into the entrepreneurial categories and the business categories, you actually use post-tax dollars. If you work for money, you use pre-tax dollars. So let's say you're taxed at, after all state and federal taxes, you're taxed at about 50%. You make $10,000 a month and you have $5,000 left. Everything that you buy is with post-tax dollars, meaning you've already been taxed on it and you get your measly pittance left. Well, if you move into the entrepreneurial or business or investor categories, what happens is you're not taxed until you actually use your write-offs. So you're able to actually pay for equipment, you're able to pay for internet, you're able to pay for rent, you're able to pay for employees, you're able to pay for things that make you more money, you're able to pay for a car for your business. All of those things that you would have to buy with 50% less of your money in a post-tax situation, you're buying all those things now with pre-tax money. So in essence, the purchasing power of your money has increased by about 40%. And then at the end of the year, based off of the legal tax laws, whatever it is that your accountant runs through and you run through with them, that's your remaining profits. That's the money you pay taxes on, not the whole sum, which is what happens if you're working directly for money. Now let's talk about what may even be a more significant benefit of not working directly for money. And that's that you get to raise your income ceiling. Now, in Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki talks about, in essence, raising your income ceiling. When you're no longer working directly for money, you've raised the limit on how much money you can earn in a given 365-day time period. For instance, if you work for 24 hours, 24-hour fitness, and you work for $20 an hour, and you're a personal trainer. So you are, first of all, going to be taxed at the highest tax rate. So you're not going to make $20 an hour, first of all. Second of all, you aren't subject to any significant growth in your income. Maybe it's a 1 or 2% raise per year that moves with inflation, but in reality, you can pretty much predict how much money you're going to make year after year after year. Now, instead, if you took the same model and you still wanted to be in the health industry, but instead you started your own gym and you actually even bought the land and you took the McDonald's business model, you'd have all of the tax benefits of owning the property, the depreciation of the property, writing off debt against your income. And what you could do is, if you had the skill set or the wherewithal to be able to do the advertising, you can hire other people, other trainers to actually do the services performed. So all of a sudden, if you grow that on a large scale, you move to a different model. You can do the same thing with anything. You might be a massage therapist at a Massage Envy. All of a sudden, you could move to the self-employed department. Let's say you charge $50 an hour for a massage. Same type of problem. You're capped on how much money you can make. $50 an hour, maybe you get to keep more of it because you're not giving 40% of it to Massage Envy, but there's only 24 hours in a day, and if you're performing the service on your own, you are limited. Your income ceiling can only increase so much. There's not very much leverage. But if you add a patented system, or you add a certain way you are using digital marketing to get new clients, you could convince other massage therapists to work for you. They perform the service, you get a cut on top of it. And if you do that at scale, you get the benefits of employing other people, you get the tax benefits of write-offs, and most importantly, you raise your income ceiling and you're no longer working directly for money. When I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, I realized that the model that I had was wrong. I thought I was doing it right. I wasn't an employee, I worked for myself. But the model that I had was as a self-employed person, which in a lot of ways is even more work than just being an employee, because you also have to deal with all the accounting, all those other shenanigans, getting the marketing, all those types of things. So you're basically working two jobs, and I'm the one performing all the services. I dropped out of college when I was 19. I went backpacking around the world, self-published my first book, which is a motivational book about it. And I was doing tons and tons and tons of consulting. I was doing tons and tons and tons of high school speeches, colleges speeches. I spoke at many of the top corporations in the world, even numerous Fortune 500 companies. So I was getting paid to do all this stuff, but I was on a treadmill. I would consult for people on how to put their books together, how to market their own books, because I did all that stuff on my own. But I was trading my time directly for money. And when I read the book, I realized my income model was totally wrong, and there was only so much I could do. I could keep trying to increase my fees, and I could go, oh, I'm going to charge another 10%, another 10%. But there's a limit on how much you could do with that. So what I did is I moved everything that I did onto the internet. I didn't know anything about the internet, but I started using the internet. I started using YouTube. I started building an email list, and ultimately I took all the things I was getting paid for speeches, for consulting, for book services. I took all those things and I put them together into softwares and into services and courses on the internet that were available for anyone to use. The prices went down, and they were cheaper than if I was trading my time directly for the money to provide the service, but the scalability of it went through the roof. So I started serving more and more and more people, and before I knew it, I had my first 10,000 customers. So all of a sudden what happened was I started using a different model on not only the service I was providing, but the marketing I was using. Because my marketing before was basically, I'll show up at your school, I'll show up at your corporation, I'll show up at your college, and I'll talk. I'll call everybody I can, I'll beg everyone I can for services, and it kind of sort of worked. I made like 40 grand a year, and then I'd get some book deals that paid me a tiny bit of money, and eventually I got book contracts with Penguin Random House. Still not that much money was coming in, but it was enough to live for sure. But there was a limit. Then all of a sudden I move everything to the internet, and before I know it, within a few years, I have over 500,000 subscribers on my other channel, well over 250,000 people on my email list, and tens of thousands of customers buying the same things that I was providing person to person. But now all of a sudden I've instituted leverage and scalability, and I'm no longer trading my time directly for money. And that's when my income started exploding, because the thing here is, I moved into what MJ DeMarco calls the millionaire fast lane. The fast lane millionaire is one in which you use a different model, and that model is one when you start leaving space for, in essence, infinite scalability or infinite growth. Because if I have something available to sell, for instance, it could be that I'm really good at massage work, but if I'm trading my time for $20 an hour, 40% of my money is gone to the government, and Massage Envy is taking a cut, there's not that much scalability. But if I have this amazing patented system for massage work, and maybe I have a partner that's super good at digital marketing, and we start recruiting other massage therapists, we sell them on the prospects of this unique patented system, and that we can bring more customers, and they're going to keep more money than if they worked at Massage Envy. We can scale that across city to city to city to city to city, and all of a sudden, I'm no longer working directly for money. I've created leverage to what I'm doing that allows me to raise my income ceiling. So in essence, what Rich Dad Poor Dad is saying when Robert Kiyosaki says that the rich don't work for money, in essence, What he's saying is when you're working directly for money, it's the lowest compounding effect to make more of it. So you've heard the term compounding effect or compounding interest, and that's over time that the original sum of your money, if we're talking about from an investment perspective, continues to exponentially grow over time. So compounding, we're talking about exponential growth. The lowest and worst way to get compounding growth in your income is trading your time directly for money, because as we said, you're leaving way for only an infinitesimally small growth in your income. Maybe it's a 1 or 2% pay increase a year that rises with inflation. On top of that, the government is taking 40% of your money before you even get going. So you're trying to run with an anchor already set around you. Now, in today's world, it's actually never been easier to start to divorce yourself from directly trading your time for money. The first thing I would say is if you have a job, do not quit your job. Use your free time to start to grow your mind, to grow your financial education, and to start to save more money that you can ultimately use for a side business, for a side idea that you can start to grow over time. Don't just go, I'm not doing this, I'm going to be broke forever, I'm quitting. Don't do that. Start to grow your mind and start to grow your savings so you can put yourself in a better position down the road. Now, it's never been easier to start to not work directly for money, or in essence, just raise your income ceiling and increase the amount of money you're making by 30%, 40%, 50%, 100%, 200% over a course of a few years. Now, the reason for that is almost every business in existence can be actually provided service-wise from softwares today. So no matter what your business is, it might be a consulting thing, it might be a health thing, it might be a massage thing, it might be a marketing thing. There are infinite new ways to either make a hybrid of your service where only part of it is now you trading your time for money and the other part of it is relying on the internet or softwares. So the reality is that there's never been a better or easier time to start to institute more leverage, more scalability, and give yourself the opportunity for a more significant growth in your income ceiling. So in this video, I wanted to talk quickly about why the rich do not work for money. So here's what I would say in conclusion. Ask yourself, how can I divorce my time from money ultimately? Now, one of the ways to start to do this is to give it some serious thought. Pull out a pen and pad and write at the top of the paper how to scale my income or how to create more leverage. Come up with every idea you possibly can. Some may be good, some may be bad, some may be great, some may be awful. The point is, you aren't taught how to think like this. I think it's because the way that the global elites want the world to run is they want everyone to work for a few monolithic corporations, so we aren't taught this. Who knows what the real cause is? But the fact remains very clear. We are not taught how to not work for money. But look around. All the richest people in the world do not work for money. They're investors and they're business owners and they're equity owners in businesses, even if they didn't create them. Maybe they have a certain skill in sales or marketing or communications that's allowed them to be a founding partner or an equitable member of a corporation or a business, whether it's a monolithic one or it's a small business. It doesn't really matter. The point remains the same. So pull out a pen and pad. Write at the top of the paper how to scale my income, how to scale my business. Go look around at whatever it is you're interested. Whether you're interested in consulting, book publishing, whether you're interested in music, whether you're interested in massage work, whether you're interested in fashion. It doesn't really matter what you're interested in. If you look hard enough and you focus long enough, you can find that almost every single industry or business in the world, there is a top percent that governs that business. Whether it's consulting, whether it's coaching, whether it's health, whether it's gyms and people that rent equipment out instead of do one-on-one personal training, there's ways to institute leverage and scalability where you're no longer working for money in every single occupation in the world, if you look hard enough for it. So pull out a pen and pad, come up with the ideas, and start working towards it. Now, this isn't something that tomorrow, all of a sudden, you're going to be making $1 zillion and you're no longer working for money, you're paying less in taxes, and you're keeping more of your money. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But the people that become successful, the people that start to really significantly grow their income ceiling is here, now it's up here, are the people that have the patience and the wherewithal to strategize and come up with the best plans and ask themselves a simple question. Is this scalable? Does this use leverage? Or how can I create more leverage? Leverage meaning I am able to use softwares, I'm able to use other individuals on a per hour basis, or they're a profit sharing partner of me where the needle can move further in our revenue and in our net profit without me working directly to provide the service long term. Now, that's the $1 million question. And if you can answer that question, you will find that whatever it is that you think is a valuable need to the marketplace, you will find that you can not only make a lot of money at it, but you can make a lot of money without working directly for it. So this is Jake Ducey with I Love Prosperity. If you enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button. It's right over there, or maybe it's right over there. And then comment down below, the rich don't work for money. Comment down below, the rich don't work for money. And make sure that you also hit the subscribe button and the bell notification on one of these sides. The subscribe button and the bell notification, the like button. Thank you for watching this video and have an absolutely great day.